Hey, welcome to Caching in the Northwest. You know this is the official podcast of GeoWoodstock 18 right here in the Great Pacific Northwest. You know, each week we're going to talk about geocaches and geocachers right from here and all around the globe. So while you're being led down a YouTube rabbit trail, we'll be caching in the Northwest.
Well, and of course that means something's different tonight. It's not time to bring in our Canadian co-host. It's we have a guest tonight, and we're gonna get to her in just a minute. But first, we're gonna say that tonight we're not talking about geocaches. We are talking about not finding geocaches.
How fun is that?
Well, if the searching is more fun than the finding, then it can be a lot of fun. But we'll talk about it. But first, we want to throw out a quick reminder that we appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep this podcast coming each and every week. With a thanks, let's see, where am I now? I've already messed up my buttons here. Thanks to Landsharks, our corporate Denali level sponsor. Landsharks asked us to thank everyone who participated in their 15th anniversary contest. They loved reading all the great memories and comments. And if you want to know more about supporting the show, click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website.
Oh, I like the way you did that.
Thank you.
Different to read new content, right?
Yes, and
you're not used to reading.
Changed some buttons and couldn't find my shark button. So thank you for scrolling the sharks on your square there.
Hey, but folks, right now it's time for the glow. What, you may ask, is the glow? Well, it's the geocaching log of the week. Thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you read it or whether you wrote it, we want to hear about it because great logs simply make geocaching better.
How would they send it?
Send an email.
I'm trying to ask you how, and you don't let me get questions in here.
Well, you didn't put a space in the text there. Send in an email, maybe a field recording, to feedback@cachingnw.com. You can always call in to 253-693-TFTC and show us just how you glow.
Do you have to accentuate the TFTC?
TFTC.
Okay. Okay.
I could Shatner it. TFTC.
No, don't do that. Okay. Tonight's glow, let's see, with this lovely badge, is submitted by Gearhead. It's the Canadian Ape Cache FVCB3. It's coordinates GC8JQ21. And apparently they got to ground zero, and it says, once at ground zero, we could not see a carport, so we turned down a small road, and there it is. We hope. I certainly did not want to be in the wrong place and end up shot for trespassing. As I parked the car off the road, the wife had a look and then waved to me to come over to help her open it, as she was not sure if it was the cache and how it opened. I said, just follow the instructions. After giving part of the cache a good hefty tug, I just about jumped 3 feet in the air thinking I'd released some sort of vicious animal out of its pen. Kudos for a well-done cache construction, and one that we will never stop laughing about for a long time.
A long time.
Yes, log is by Saltwater Frogs.
You know what I find interesting?
What do you find interesting?
Maybe it's just me, but the way he said it, he didn't want to be shot for trespassing, so he sent his wife ahead.
As we're not offering marital advice here on the podcast.
Okay.
Just going to throw that out right now.
All right. Well, Trexer's excited for a glow. Hey, folks, if you want to contribute to tonight's chat, all you have to do is use hashtag DNF right there in the chat. And of course, you can always use hashtag FTAS. That's FTAS, or for the after show. See how we do that?
Yeah. Good job.
Sneaky, sneaky. Hey, Wits End, what's that logo you have up there?
Well, look at that. There's a 2021 glow badge.
Hey, folks, there is a 2021 glow badge,
I'm
and
surrounded by them.
yeah, you're bookend.
I am.
Yeah, it's a glow sandwich,
Okay.
or is it a Wits End
It's
sandwich
a
with
Whitson
glow
sandwich
bread?
on glow bread. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. All you have to do is send in a glow. Send in a glow-worthy log. Now, here's a quick inside tip. Are you ready? Are you listening?
I am listening. See these headphones?
Yeah. All logs are glow-worthy. Just send them in. Yeah. That's the secret. Now, don't tell anyone.
Okay.
Okay. In more news, coming up in just a couple of days, it's the big blue switch day. Why is it blue? We don't know. This comes from, so there'll be a souvenir. If you go out and find a geocache on May 2nd, you're going to get a big blue switch souvenir. It's quite spiffy this year. From the blog, they say when GPS was first developed, it was only available for use by the U.S. military. Eventually, GPS was opened up to civilians, but with selective availability. That sounds something like the government would use, right? This meant that though everyone had access, the accuracy was lowered for civilians. On May 2nd, 2000, the U.S. government, quote unquote, flipped the switch. So high accuracy GPS was available to everyone. For reasons unknown, geocachers know this as Blue Switch Day. However, there really isn't a blue switch.
There might be a blue switch. They just can't tell you about it.
Oh, okay. Subway Mark's taking this a little far. So found it is glowworthy? It could be. Especially if it was a difficult find that, you may have looked for hours to find. I just saying I've done this.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So without further ado, let's bring in tonight's guest. Tonight we have X Tracker with us. So X Tracker, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like maybe when you started geocaching, what got you into it?
Hello there. Thank you for inviting me. I would have to say that I got started in geocaching completely by chance. I actually got started by letterboxing first. And I got started with letterboxing because I stumbled upon an article in like a Times magazine or a, Newsweek magazine or something. And I was like, what do you mean I can hunt around my city and find things? That seems completely cool. I want to go do that. But as anyone who has done letterboxing knows, it is a lot more difficult than geocaching because unlike geocaching where you at least get to ground zero immediately and then have to figure out what you're hunting for. Letterboxing is, go 117 steps this direction, turn north, go how many steps that way. I then discovered I had a friend who had heard of geocaching and had just gotten a GPS and quickly switched over. And it was kind of very quickly that I dropped letterboxing and just kind of continued on with geocaching ever since. And that would have been in about 2005. So
Wow.
a good 16 years.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, we've been caching about the same amount of time. I think I started in 04, 05, right in there. So it's a great hobby. I'm glad that you found it. We enjoy letterbox. I've letterboxed too, and I think that's fun, but I'm a geocacher at heart. So glad you get that. And so you've probably had, in all that 16 years, you probably had some time to hide some hides too. How many hides have you placed out there to contribute to our game?
I've placed a total of 5. I have 4 that are still up. I had one that a city's parks department didn't like where it was placed, and so I could not keep it where it was at.
Oh, that's a shame. We do have a question. This is from GSM times 2. Wants to know what X Tracker, the name, means.
So I grew up loving the show X-Files. And so I figured tracker was a good name, and I tend to throw the name at that time, or the letter X, into a lot of my stuff. So I just threw X in front of tracker.
That works.
X marks the spot.
Yep.
That's right. Or the file in this case.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. I want to admit something. The real reason I invited you onto the show is because of one hide in particular. It's Where Stairs Go to Die. That's GC11JEG. And it's a difficulty 3.5 and a terrain 2.5. It's a real bugger of a cache. I know I spent hours looking for this cache. There was one time that IHAM, Sprouter, Monkey Cakes, and I spent 45 minutes, the four of us looking together, and couldn't find it. And I thought, well, you know what? If there's somebody who knows how to handle DNF logs, it's got to be Xtracker. So I reached out to you over Geocaching Messenger, and you thought this was the most random request ever received.
It seriously was. I did not know what to think of it at first, or if it was a legitimate request, or yeah. I mean, I had no idea that my caches were kind of this notorious for DNFs.
Yeah, we talked a little bit before the show that if you go out and find a cache quickly, you don't have a lot of recall on it, right? There's not a lot of, wow, that was a great one that really stuck with me. But if you spend hours at a site poring over every little thing in order to find this one is not going to leave your head. So I know I may have only put one DNF on this cache, but I looked at least 5 times, if not more. And, like I said, with other seasoned cachers, meaning they were old like me. No, they have experience.
Yes.
So when you placed this cache, did you know it was going to be difficult to find?
Yes.
Okay.
And I wanted it to be difficult. I mean, I don't think I've necessarily, I've maybe corrected some typos or some spelling or whatnot in the original cache description, but kind of the original description of this is evil has always been that way. I placed it there specifically after finding a cache that I think was called This Is For You, Bud 2, something like that. That was much further along the waterfront that, I had spent, I don't know how many times going to try to find. That's not there anymore, but it was one where it was out on a dock and you literally had to twist a piece of the dock in order to find. And I had no idea at that point, because I was still so new to caching, that you could include the environment and include small caches like that, involve, tricky hides. I think up until that point, I had only found kind of the stereotypical Altoid tins or ammo cans. And after finding that one, I was like, I want other people to have the feeling that I had after finding that cache.
That is great. I do have to toss in Ari's comment here. You don't have to be old to be a seasoned cacher.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You don't have to be.
Well, I went and checked that cache page. I have not found that one, but I don't think I've actually looked for it either. So now I have to add that to my list. I have to get down to the waterfront, go looking for that, and maybe I can add my DNF to the list there. For new listeners, or for people just joining geocaching, not maybe somebody out there doesn't know DNF. Geocaching etiquette says when you log a DNF, that's a did not find, you're telling geocachers that this cache might be a little more difficult to find than anticipated, or maybe even be missing. I personally think that's a little presumptuous, because sometimes I just figure I just can't find the cache. And you're letting the cache owner know too that they might need to check the cache container, or maybe they just wear it as a badge of honor that they've hit a particularly devious cache find. But we do encourage people to log DNFs because it gives the cache owner a better idea of how many people are finding the cache and how many are not. Because if nobody logs anything, that people think nobody's looking for it. It can be really useful when it comes to maintenance considerations and everything. If a cacher, though, sometimes in my caching history, I have been known to message the owner and say, "I'm pathetic. Would you please give me a hint?" So, Extractor, when a cacher asks for an extra hint, how do you usually respond?
So generally, and I would say I tend to be a very nice cache owner. And even though I say I'm evil and that they're evil caches, I tend to be very free with my hints. Over the years, I used to enjoy going out and playing hot and cold with people and watching them try to find the cache. I don't do that as often anymore. Maybe I was a bit younger and the idea of doing that now, maybe not so much, but I think hints are always generally a good thing. I'd say possibly if someone is newer to caching, the only time I've ever said no to anyone is when it's been their first or second cache find. These aren't starter caches.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And the person that actually said no got really upset about that. But I think sometimes newer cachers cannot be so gentle with caches, especially ones that are camo caches that aren't the standard caches. Yeah. And they're not as likely to find them. And I don't want to set someone up to be extra frustrated when they're just starting. And I would rather them find easier to find caches so that they can learn to enjoy the activity and then come back than get frustrated and not want to do it anymore.
Yeah, because it's about having fun, right?
Yeah.
I have done very similar things. I have played the hot and cold game with people that have asked me for hints. I've been very generous with hints. I usually will try, if somebody asks me for a hint, try to start with a fairly generic hint and then get a little more focused. Or I've sometimes even asked somebody, okay, do you want a nudge or do you just want me to tell you where it is?
Yep.
So.
And I'll do the same. It's what level do you want to give me, or do you want do you want a small, medium, or large size? Like what are you looking for?
Do you want fries with that?
Yeah.
I do the same thing. Do you want me to tell you, or do you just want a nudge? I think, and I don't think that's being disrespectful at all. Some people are like, if you give a nudge, they're like, that didn't help at all. Now I'm, even more frustrated. Where if, so I think that's being sensitive to the frustration level of the finder. I love how you said these are not starter level caches. That's right. These are almost career ending caches. Like, maybe I shouldn't geocache anymore. I can't find this thing. The other cache you have now, the first one has almost a 1-to-1 DNF to found it log. The next one has more DNFs than found it's. I like it has 52 notes. It has at least one needs archived. It has a couple of needs maintenance. But what impresses me is there's 13 owner maintenance logs. That means you went out and you looked at this and determined, it's still there. Or, I went and changed the log sheet. So you're actually, involved. This one is called Spouting Off. It's GC11C2W. And it's one. It was.
Because you'll note MC3 Cats there also considers it a beastie to find as well.
Yes. It was the first one I went looking for of the two. So I started working the waterfront from the south and worked north. And I hit this one first and it was like, okay, I'm not going to find any more until I find this one. So let me just start looking and start looking and start looking. My family would often, we'd walk on the waterfront. And every time I was like, hey, we're going this way when we're walking, and I need 15 minutes to go look for this cache. That's all I could get out of them. Any more than that, they're like, come on, Dad. So I go look a little bit more. Nope, can't find it. Back in the before times when we used to have events, you remember those times? Those were nice times. I approached people and asked, hey, have you found this one? Oh yeah. Actually, Geodiver helped me. He says, I often eat lunch right there. I'll meet you out there one day and, help you find it. So I meet him out there one day and he's like, oh no, the vegetation's grown up way too much. I have no idea where it is. He says, he says, when I found it, I could reach from the grass into the bush and pull it out. And now, the bush is taller than me and there's no way you could do that. So that just increased my frustration and determination. I was going to find this. Now, are these two caches, Spouting Off and Where Stairs Go to Die, the same type of container? It's somewhere between a micro and a nano.
So they started off as the same, different camo, but they started off as the same size. Okay. And then unfortunately the city came along and lopped half of the bush off and threw the beautiful cache into the sound, and lost forever to never be found again. So luckily, after the cache the city didn't want around, I had a spare cache that I was able to put in its place. And it is a different style of cache, still about the same size, but a different type and a different area, still the exact kind of location. But it's a different style. I've been thinking for quite a while that I want to kind of go back to the original. But part of me is always worried that the city will come along and kind of either rip the bush out or, because they've done a lot of changing. The spout isn't the original spout anymore. It's now a big giant tube that takes up the vast majority of the cement circle that's there. So I never know what the city's going to do with that area.
Oh, interesting. I only know the big candy cane looking spout. Yeah, that's kind of a spout. That's close enough. I can't tell you. I every time it's got to be magnetic on here. I'm going to find, no, it's not on here. Maybe next time I'll find it. I'll do the same thing again. Yeah, that doesn't work.
Well, and I will definitely say that, it was interesting when you pulled up kind of the numbers for both of these, that it definitely looks like a lot of people have maybe deleted a lot of their needs maintenance posts, because I'd say for every time probably for at least 2/3 of the time I went out to do maintenance, it was because somebody had claimed it wasn't there or reported that it needed maintenance.
Yeah, I think that was a lot more prevalent early on, that, hey, if I can't find it, it can't be here. So It needs maintenance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. GSM times 2 wants to know, when's the last time you checked on the cache? Lots of DNF since 2220. Since February of last year.
I guess which cache?
I don't know. I would assume the first one, since this
probably
is
stairs.
Yeah.
Last month, probably. It sits in its happy home. It's very lonely. It would love for someone to come visit it. It thinks no one loves it, and that Where Stairs Goes to Die is it's a really interesting cache. And I'd say almost between the two of them, they almost take turns, where there'll be a while where everyone will find Spouting Off, and then Spouting Off will just kind of be full of DNFs and everyone will find stairs. And then it seems to just kind of go through this ebb where I don't quite understand it. Or there'll be a time frame where, a chunk of people will find it and then no one will for, another 6 months, another 2 years, and then a chunk of people will find it again. And I don't know if it's just the second one person finds it, that then other people will get really excited and go out and spend copious amounts of time looking for it. I don't know. But I promise it's there.
It would not surprise me if, why you're not getting any logs or anything happening. There's people looking for it. They may not put a DNF log.
Yeah.
They're looking for it. And then when somebody finds it, they're like, hey, I found it. You want to come here. I'll show you where it is. Or I'll tell you where.
I haven't looked, but now I have to go look for these two.
You do. Where stairs go to die, it's all about the right perspective. I can't, the number of times I went around and then the last time, I didn't look for it after I found it. When I found it, I just turned my head and was like, there it is. Look at that. How could I have not seen that before? It's all about having the right perspective.
Of X-Tracker's 4 active caches, I have found the other 2, if that counts for anything.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Seebeck Tribe says they found it during the Tacoma Cache Machine of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
The good old days.
Let's see. What do we have? Dora Moore says, I only use hints when I really need them. I don't want spoilers. I love the aha moment when I find a tricky cache.
That is quite satisfying when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it from way back when.
Having an aha moment?
Yeah, it hasn't happened in so long. I forget what it's. Yeah, but I remember it being really nice.
Hey, well, no, you did a difficult gadget cache that was more difficult than it needed to be.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. That was fun.
And there was kind of an aha moment there.
Yeah.
Trexer says, do you see a location and devise an evil cache, or do you search out a location for a devious hide?
Good question.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I would say for mine in particular, I mean, part of it again was that I wanted that kind of aha moment for people, but I also recognize that, both of those two are along the waterfront. They're kind of in that prime muggle location, right? So I didn't want to also run the risk of them getting taken every other day, right? And so if they were easily spotted, I knew they would go missing just because of the amount of people that are in that vicinity, even if they aren't cachers.
I don't know if I like Bryling anymore. Says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
That's true. That's true.
It's true, but it doesn't have to be stated.
Okay. Keats did contribute to it. As far as DNFs go, there's apparently a cache up there called Skunktail Sea Hag that hasn't been found since it was published in 2014. Apparently it's still there waiting to be found.
Yikes.
So that cache, I would guess, has a significantly larger number of DNFs than found at logs, since it's not been found.
Well, it's an infinite number.
Yes.
Yeah. Even if it has one DNF. Holy cow.
Okay, so that brings up the question, though, talking about balance. As a cache owner, how do you maintain that balance? I mean, you've placed a really difficult cache, and you know it's going to generate DNFs, but you don't want to go perform cache maintenance every day. You said you've been there last month, and that's great to know that it's still there. I mean, how do you find that balance? Can it be too hard, I guess?
I'd say it has changed over the years. So these guys have been there since, I think, 2007. They've been there a really, really long time. And so it used to be that, as soon as I got a couple of DNFs or, needs maintenance, I would be out there same day, making sure it was still there. And over the years, I've kind of definitely learned that's probably overkill, and that I have some time, and especially with kind of the more evil ones, is that, you know, almost 10 out of 10 times it's still going to be there and it's going to be fine. I think definitely there are times and places for DNFs. I know, at least talking to way back in the day, or some of the original kind of mods of geocaching.com, was that if there were too many DNFs in a row, it would automatically flag the system and automatically put the cache in a needs maintenance flag. So I don't know how many times, I think it was like Rock Rabbit would pop up on my screen of needs maintenance. I don't know if the system is still set up that way. So I think on that side, that can get a bit frustrating when, like, I know it's there, it's fine. But I also like knowing that people are going and that it's at least somewhat being checked on, and being hopefully enjoyed in some way. Whether people hate enjoying it or just hating every second they're there, I'm not entirely sure. But I think it can be for sure helpful for my other caches where, you know, if somebody can't find it, I know right away there's a problem, because, you know, it's an easy find. And if it's, you know, a did not find, there's a problem. And so they definitely have their place. And they can be a really helpful tool.
Okay, I have to ask, when you go check on it, can you always find it?
I can always find stairs.
Okay.
Spouting off can take a while.
Okay. Oh, good. That makes me feel a little better.
And especially in its current version, it can take a while, because its location can be moved by whoever put it back last, which can make it pretty difficult. So yeah, I mean, in both of these caches, if I wasn't the person who placed them, I wouldn't be able to find them. And I think that's part of the fun, is knowing that I would want to try to find these, because it would take me multiple times to find them.
Okay. Wet Coaster has a really good question. He says, when caching as a couple, would you like to see a DNF log from both of us, or a single DNF log stating there were two people looking for the cache?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I don't. If it's not being tracked in the system the same way, where it's not going to flag, then it doesn't really matter. You know, I think each person has their own individual accounts. And so, you know, each person should be able to track for themselves where they've been and what caches they've gone to and what experiences they've had at each cache. And so it kind of seems unfair to only allow one person to track it. But, you know, if you want to save time and energy, or not have to admit to 2 DNFs, that's also fine.
Yeah, that can be. Seabeck Tribe says, at Spouting Off, I always wonder what people going by are thinking when coming out of the bushes and trees. I always had the same thing, because, you know, when we go walk there as a family, you know, there's a lot of people walking by, and my family's just kind of out there in the grass, you know, waiting for me, and I'm flailing around back here. What is he doing? Yeah. Nobody ever asked, though.
Yeah. And it used to be you could only get to the cache location by climbing over the rocks. You never used to really be able to get to it by climbing through the bush. And now that the bush has grown so much, it's so much more open that you can just kind of walk straight through the middle of it. But the problem with that is now everyone can see what you're doing while you're on the inside. Before, it was this nice little private enclosed place that really doesn't exist anymore. So I'm sure, I've gotten some pretty strange looks when I've come out. There's always that I'm going to pretend to take some pictures. Sit on the cement circle, but even that you can't really do anymore because there's that big pillar. So yeah, I'm sure people have given a lot of strange looks to people coming out of the bush.
Apparently it takes me, when I'm there, it takes me about 15 minutes to tie my shoe.
Yep.
Iham says, found spouting off on second or third try. Had a coworker that considered it his nemesis cache. Not sure if he ever found it before moving away.
Aww.
Wow. Yeah. I relate. I considered it a nemesis at one point, and then I found it, and now it's my best friend, and I move on. I can drive by going, I found that one. Oh, let's see. Okay, so let me ask this question to all you listening and those here. How often do you log a DNF? And as a follow-up to that, how long will you look before you claim a DNF? We'll start with you, Wits End. What do you think?
Well, those are kind of related questions, at least for me, because it's one of those questions that the answer is it depends. Because if I don't find a cache, I won't immediately go out and log a DNF, because it depends on how much effort I actually put into it. For me, if I only had a few minutes to look and I looked, I'm like, well, it's really not obvious. Maybe this is just a really hard cache or something. I don't log a DNF because I don't feel like I really thoroughly, exhaustively searched all possibilities. If I feel like, doggone it, I have looked everywhere, I've tried everything I can possibly think of, and I'm pretty sure it's either not there or it's just really devious, then yeah, I'll log it. But I don't usually go back and log multiple DNFs on the same cache. It would have to be really devious for that, for me.
I'll say that, I have to at least look for 15 minutes before I'll consider it a DNF, right? Before I can say, okay, I've really looked the place over. Sometimes I don't have the time, right? Especially if, the kids are, well, back in the day when, the kids were younger, and they're like, come on, Dad, we got to get going. Okay. So I didn't have enough time to truly look. I'm not going to log it as a DNF. That to me is more of a root, ran out of time, ROOT, rather than DNF, or DNT, did not try.
Did not try.
I don't think those are real acronyms, are they?
They are now.
Okay.
You put them on the show.
But I may not log DNFs on the same cache multiple times.
Yeah.
That makes sense. If I put one DNF, okay, I'm usually, if I'm in the area, I'm going to go back and look for it again and again and again, and 5-10 times in this case, and I'm just going to keep bringing it up. Sorry, extra.
Just like great logs make geocaching better, I try to be pretty descriptive with them, even if it's just to say, yep, didn't find us today, I'll be back another time. Didn't have enough time today. Or the something's like, man, I have searched high and low, and I just don't know where I'm just, try to give a little more information than just put the blue frowny and move on.
Right. And, like with when stairs go to die, like I say, Sprouter, Iham, Monkey Cakes, and I. That's 4 seasoned cachers. We spent 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That should be enough to find any cache. Yeah, it's not. I can tell you that. But I'll put that in the log that seasoned cachers look for it. It's so that that it's not a newbie out there.
Yeah.
Maybe it is missing. I don't know. The tide could have come up and washed it away. I don't know where it was. I didn't find any wreckage. I've gone to caches. I remember one of Ojoy's in Olympia where I didn't find the container, but I found the log and swag was spread all over.
Yeah.
So, somebody had obviously taken the container and just dumped out whatever was in it, and it was nowhere near where she hid it. So I'm like, okay, well, that probably needs maintenance.
Yeah.
X-Tracker, what about you? How long will you look before you log a DNF, and do you log DNFs?
I will. I would say, and it's probably been a little while since I've gone out caching. I need to get back out and do that. But I don't like to give up. And so I will stay a lot longer than 15 minutes. But I say, for at least me, it has a lot more to do with if I think it is user error based or if I think it is legitimately not there. So if I am absolutely sure that, if it is, an Altoid tin under a bench and there is no Altoid tin under the bench, I am going to put that DNF there. If it is a stairs go to die type cache, then I'm probably going to go back once or twice before I do the DNF, both because I don't want to admit defeat and I want to try to find it. Right. And because, I want to make sure it's not user error.
We got a comment from Dora Morris that I posted a DNF on a long multi-cache in Halifax. A year later, I went back for it and DNF'd it again. The cache owner begged me to log a found since I've done the legwork. I went back again some months later, and she met me on the boardwalk on her lunch break to make sure I found it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm certainly not shy about, I'm not ashamed to post a DNF. I think they're helpful, but I won't always post them right away if I feel like I'm going to go back and look for it again, or I didn't really look hard enough or something. Yeah.
I'm trying to find, and I shouldn't have done this, but now I started down a rabbit hole. MC3 Cats mentioned a cache that hasn't been found since it was placed in 2012 here in Washington. He says the cache in question is truly a tough one to find, but well worth. Oh no, that's another one. Sorry,
that's one of the ones tonight.
Spouting off, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost it, and I shouldn't have done that. I went down a rabbit trail.
But now I'm intrigued, and I want to know what one it is, so I can go find it.
It'll come up. The chat like you'll find it for us.
That's right. GSM times 2 says you're a nice cache owner.
Aw, thank you.
Let's see. Seabeck Tribe says, I give a fair amount of effort, 15 to 20 minutes into looking, then I'll put in a DNF. I'm willing to log a DNF on the same cache if it's a higher difficulty.
I like Ari's comment here that says for evil caches, I'll usually log the first DNF, then usually no more until I find it. But then I say how many times I attempted it. He says, my goal is not to clog up the cache page. So.
And I've seen lots of that on those caches where after it's found, somebody will then in their post reply with how many times they'd actually been out looking for it.
Is that the one there?
Oh, yes. Thank you. GC3K022 is Washington's super old cache that's never been found.
Vordingborg?
It has 52 DNFs and 0 found logs. It's been out since May 2012. Yeah.
I bet the log sheet is damp.
How would you know?
I don't, but I'm just going to guess.
One of the reasons that Roxanne says, one of the reasons I try to remember to log my DNFs is that I like to keep track of them so I can revisit them later and become a DNF Avenger. There. Oh, that cache has at least 41 watchers. No finders, just watchers.
Just watchers. Who's watching the watchers?
Oh, Geocaching HQ.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, X Tracker, thank you so much for joining us this evening. This was a great talk about tough hides and how to, as a cache owner, how you can manage that. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
See, it's not all that scary, just a
No.
little bit. And I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. And we hope you also enjoyed this episode of Caching in the Northwest. And I also want to take a moment to thank Land Sharks, our corporate Denali level sponsor. Make sure to subscribe to the newsletter to find out about new products first. Yes, that's a hint. There are some new products. Landsharks.ca is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online because they ship online orders daily.
They sure do. They are very, very diligent about shipping out those online orders. And we'd like to thank our faithful Denali level supporters. That is Landsharks. It's also Team Squirrel, Groovy Owl, and Cashly. And if you, dear listener, want to know more about supporting this here show, click the Patreon link. You can find that over on the CachingNW.com website.
Like the Geo Travelers have done.
Yeah, and KevMacD.
And GSM times 2.
You Talks to Rocks.
And Acrodoc.
Alarobrick.
Kennel Barb.
Wet Coaster.
Broncos fan for life.
Limax.
Genies.
CRS 98.
Fairwood West.
UDAC.
Just finding our way.
Logwork.
Donners.
Wino Seattle.
Boomer 365.
Antaeus.
B Pendragon.
T-Sayer.
Trexer 0.
Camp Clan.
Tick Magnet.
Seebeck Tribe.
On a boat.
Team Noltex.
Subway Mark.
3 Hams and a Rose.
Ah, Peach.
Sega Hove.
Geo Nav Pros.
Sprouter, who helped you look for that cache.
Kitty Quest.
Doramore.
MC 3 Cats.
Keats 94.
Kid Vegas 19.
LG 9000.
M Nerve.
Green Words.
And of course, Ari 54321.
Cache.
Oh, I like that. Got to do something after the countdown. It sets us up for something, and it's
That's good. Hey, X-Tracker, like Chris said, thanks for joining us. If some of our listeners wanted to reach out and get in touch with you, do you have a preferred method for that?
They can send me a message through the geocaching app. They can, I respond to messages generally pretty quickly. Often, if it's during the day or on a weekend, I can catch them pretty quick while they're actually still at the cache.
That's a responsible cache owner right there, folks.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, I always like that when I get that response that quickly. And for the 2 bozos on top of the screen here, you can also find us on the Geocaching Message Center, social media. You know what? Head over to CachingNW.com/hosts. You can find out a little more about us, ways to contact us, and all that kind of information.
Folks, it's time for At Last. Listeners ask some things, and now we get to answer. If you'd like to ask some things, you know what? You can call into 253-693-TFTC. I'm going to do that every time. Or email your questions to feedback@cachingnw.com. Now, this week's question, what was the make and model of your first smartphone?
Ooh.
Way back in the day. This kind of, you got to turn the dial way back to early 2000s.
Yeah.
2000s. I'll go first. For me, it was a iPhone 3, I think it was, that somebody gave me. And they upgraded, I think, to the 3GS. And they're like, you want my old phone? Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
With this. Yeah, I want this. There you go. Brylang was an iPhone 3G.
iOS.
Ooh. MC3 Cats had a BlackBerry.
I never had a BlackBerry. I was trying to remember in my sequence of old phones. I used to crunch through old phones. I had because I just had, well, dumb phones if you want to call them that nowadays, but
And then
I could play
a couple
Snake
of
on
good
them and stuff.
Nokia. You had a couple
Yeah.
of good Nokia feature
The
phones.
the first, I called it a smartphone because it would do more than just Snake and stuff. It
Mhm.
ran the Symbian OS. Anybody remember the Symbian OS?
No.
It was I just looked it up because I couldn't remember the number. It's a Nokia 3650. Somebody that I knew called it the birth control phone.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I pulled it up.
The keypad went around in a circle. It
Yeah.
was a weird phone.
Oh,
Yeah, I also think it's because if girls saw you using it, that you wouldn't stand a chance of, but dating again. But be that as it may, yeah, I really liked there was a game called Bounce that I loved to play for hours on that phone. I think that was definitely the first phone I had with a color screen and any kind of smart OS on it.
What about you, X Tracker? Do you remember your first smartphone?
it would have been whatever the second edition of the iPhone was.
Okay.
So I didn't get the first one, but I got the second one.
Was it just 2? Or was it... No, I think the iPhone 3 was the second one.
I think it was the 3G, yeah. The iPhone and the iPhone 3G.
3G, you're right.
Because then the 3GS came out.
There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
I think it was
Yeah,
the
the 3G. The 3 was the second. They didn't know how to count back then.
Yeah.
Donna had a flip phone. She loved that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were good. But Bryling says they're not smart.
I had a Palm Pilot that I somehow connected to my phone, like with dial-up networking or something weird. Serial modems, yeah. Never mind.
GSM times 2 had a Palm Trio 650.
There you go.
That was a Palm that happened to have a phone in it. They were huge, if I remember right. Keith says, I can't remember. It was an LTE something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right. Okay. Folks, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Don't forget that you can be part of the show. Call into 253-693-TFTC. Leave us a comment, ask us a question, or help us find that difficult hide any time of the day or night. And of course, you can email us at feedback@cachingnw.com. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. If you like the show, click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and more. You can give us a thumbs up or review. This show is produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, and even Jay Kennedy, though he's not here. It's licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, copyright 2021 by Chris Umfenauer. And folks, I ask you to stay tuned for
The After Show.
It's like you're here.
I'm not going to name any names, but Chris read that a whole lot easier with somebody else not here tonight.
There was no changing of the text as I was trying to read it.
Yeah, there was
no
no behind the scenes tormenting and yes.
Tomfoolery.
So, just saying, not saying, but saying.
Oh, Rylang says it's the last call for Fatas. I didn't know we had a last call on this podcast.
Oh, there you
I
go.
kind of like that. Last call. Maybe that's a new segment. No. Let's see. We have... I'm trying to find Keats. There it is. Keats says a brand new episode of Keats 94 Geocaching Adventure goes live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Multi-city adventure. Lots of great cities in the lower mainland and many caches too. Seebeck Tribe made a big correction. I made a mistake earlier in the show. And thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. The Big Blue Switch Day souvenir can be earned from May 2nd through the end of the year. That's December 31st, 2021. So you don't have to do it just on
May 2nd.
May 2nd.
But it'll give you an extra warm, fuzzy feeling if you do.
Oh, yeah. You got to be the first one to get it. Right? You're going to be out there at
Sure.
12:01 on the 2nd to make sure I get the freshest souvenir possible.
That's
I don't
right.
want the old stale one by the end of the day. That's like digging down and getting the good bread, not the bread that's closest to the top. But
Oh,
you
yeah.
gotta
Leave
dig
that
down
for your...
and get the good-
Let your family suffer through with the mangled bread.
Yeah, it's for the kids who don't know any better.
Yeah. But yes, you can earn a souvenir through the end of the year. That's more COVID pandemic times souvenir rules. Hopefully someday we'll go back to you got to do it on the day.
Yeah. At least maybe a weekend.
Something. Yeah.
I've noticed the times are starting to get a little bit smaller, right? Before they say any time in the year. Now, they're just giving you May through December. So that feels good. It feels right. Well, guys, it seems awfully quiet tonight. Perhaps we're a little bit tired and we're all thinking of that one cache we can't find. And we want to go find it again. So until next week, get out and go find that cache you've DNF'd in the Northwest.